Hello everyone. So in the last video we have discussed about filovirus, under which we had discussed Ebola and Marburg, and very simple tricks on how to remember each one of their properties in a very practical manner. Like we have told the sequence in which we will be doing every single topic. If you have not watched the video yet, the link is in the description, and also you can get the link on your screen right now. So please do watch it, and after that come to this video and it will make more sense. So starting right away, the measles virus. So let us proceed in the same manner. First, the classification. So it comes under Paramyxoviridae. Paramyxoviridae, which is under Myxoviridae. Now Myxoviridae can be orthomyxo and paramyxo. So let us know the difference between the two. So orthomyxo. Now let me tell you a simple word so that you can easily remember. So what is ortho? Orthopedics. It is a very small subject. It's a very short subject, right? So just remember the first word small, and also it is small, so the size is less than paramyxo. So it is 80 to 120 nm, while para is 100 to 300 nm. Now as for spherical, it is spherical, but para is pleomorphic. Then because it is smaller in size, it can easily go into nucleus, so the RNA will replicate in the nucleus, but for para it is cytoplasm. Then genetic reassortment, antigenic variation are seen, which is not seen in case of paramyxo. Then both are negative sense, single stranded RNA. And from S, it is segmented. It has 8 segments. Now can you tell me which virus has only 3 segments? Write down in the comment, or I'll tell you at the end of this video. And the example for orthomyxo is influenza virus, while for para it is measles, mumps, parainfluenza and RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. Now coming back to our second subtopic, which is structure. So now you already know the structure from this table. All these are the features, and also the whole of the Myxoviridae has a helical symmetry, and this measles particularly has 8 classes, which is further divided into 23 genotypes, out of which D8 is the most common, followed by D3. The third is reservoir, that is the only reservoir is human. We will do in some time when we come to the PSM point of view that there are no subclinical cases, there are no carriers. The only source for infection is the case, that is human. So the only reservoir will be human. Coming to MOT, it will be respiratory. It will enter into the respiratory tract, then enter the lymph node, multiply there, come to the blood, that is primary viremia, then go to reticuloendothelial system, multiply there, then again go into the blood, that is secondary viremia, and from there it goes to various sites. Now the same applies for poliovirus too, but the difference is after secondary viremia it will enter the spinal cord and the brain, on the anterior horn of the spinal cord. Then coming to clinical features, it is most common in 6 months to 3 years old child. Now the incubation period is 10 days to 14 days, but for adults it can be 21 days too. Now for incubation period, you can remember this. For measles, remember the sequence: measles, chickenpox, mumps, rubella. For measles, 10 to 14 days, and for all these three, you can roughly remember as 14 to 21 days. And we will be discussing secondary attack rate too. For measles, it is more than 90%. For rubella, it is 90%. For mumps, it is 86%. For chickenpox, it is 70 to 90%. So this is how you can roughly remember it. So yes, secondary attack rate is 90%. Then the clinical feature can be grouped into prodromal phase, eruptive phase and post-measles phase. Prodromal mainly on the 10th day, fever plus the 3C, cough, coryza, conjunctivitis. Then 2 days after fever, there will be Koplik spot, that is white blue dot surrounded by erythema, and is mostly seen on the buccal mucosa on the second lower molar. Now relating it with FMT, do you know when the second molars erupt in case of a permanent dentition? In permanent dentition, when do the second molars erupt? So it is at 12 years. Now if you don't know how to remember this dentition, because it's pretty tough to know the sequence which erupt first and at what age, there is a link in the description, and also you can see on your screen right now. Do watch that too. I've discussed awesome mnemonics on the dentition part. So getting back to microbiology, on the 14th day, that is 2 days after Koplik spot, you can see the maculopapular rash. It is very characteristic, and this is your eruptive phase when your rashes erupt. So this is just like this eruptive phase, so this eruptive phase, this rash behind the ear, so ear के पीछे से rash आता है, so rash is behind the ear, okay, behind the ear, then it will move to face, then to trunk, and on the 18th day it will disappear. From here it will disappear just in the same sequence, right? Also, this rash is T cell mediated. So another point to note is, in case of immunosuppression, there will be no T cell, implying there will be no rash, right? Then in the post measles stage, there can be weight loss and weakness, nothing as such. Now the period of communicability, it is 4 days before rash to 4 days after rash. Now the complications, the most common complication is otitis media, most severe complication, and the cause of death can be secondary bacterial infection. Now there are certain complications due to measles virus itself. H pneumonia, that is giant cell pneumonitis, then diarrhea, vitamin A deficiency, and certain CNS complication, that is post measles encephalitis, subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, and measles inclusion body encephalitis. So this covered our almost 5 subtopics: classification, structure, reservoir, MOT, and clinical feature. Now coming to lab diagnosis, you will take a nasopharyngeal swab, you will do a virus isolation, and this is important, the CDC recommended cell line is Vero or /H SLAM cell line. Okay, so it is Vero bar H SLAM cell line. H SLAM is human signaling lymphocytic activation molecule. So this Vero cell line will be coated with this H SLAM receptor. And on the cell line, you will notice in 7 to 10 days the classical Wardenfinkeldy cell, which is both intracytoplasmic as well as intranuclear. Then you will do antigen detection, antibody detection, and RT-PCR. Then treatment, nothing as such symptomatic, and because it can lead to vitamin A deficiency, so you will give vitamin A. It is given on day 1 and day 2. Then vaccine. Now this is very important because the vaccine is live attenuated Edmonston Zagreb strain, and you need to know this name because, so let us write it here, and when we will do the measles, mumps, and rubella, we will write their vaccine as well here, so that you can easily compare all of these: the incubation period, the secondary attack rate, and the vaccine. So for measles, it is Edmonston Zagreb strain. And how do you give it? 0.5 ml subcutaneously in the right upper arm. So let's get back here, and yes, we also use some sword strain, but most common is Edmondson Zagreb strain. Now how do you use it? You have to reconstitute it in distilled water and to be used within 4 hours. It is thermolabile, so can be used at minus 20 degrees C, should be stored at minus 20 degrees C. In 0.5 ml subcutaneous right upper arm. So you have this measles from this S, from this is anything. You can remember it is subcutaneous, and this S is your superior hand. Superior means your dominant hand, that is right arm. So right upper arm, you take this vaccine 0.5 ml. But BCG you have to take on left upper arm. Now this everyone knows, nothing to tell, we all have that scar. Then some important point, okay, and this side effect of this vaccine, it is fever like measles, and I won't say side effect, but it is rather due to contamination. If the person handling this vaccine is not taking proper measures, it can land you into toxic shock syndrome. Then coming to the SPM point of view, the important point. Now we do SPM in 3 headings: agent, host and environment. So agent, you already know, this measles virus, and as I already told, the subclinical cases are absent, there is no carrier, human is the only source. So it is telling me, that is human is the only source. The host, already told in the clinical feature part. Then environment, nothing as such, it can be in any season. The program you do for measles is catch up, keep up, follow up. In catch up, you take all the children between 9 months to 10 years and vaccinate them. Then in follow up, every 2 to 4 years you follow up to see their status. So yes, I guess that's it. And this measles, because the rashes appear on 4th day, we also called this as 4th disease. Now can you tell me, if I tell you what is 3rd disease, what is 4th? 4th you already know, it is measles. What is 5th disease and what is 6th disease? You can write down in the comment. And yes, regarding this segment, so this 3 segment is in Bunia virus. Now what is the sequence? It is Bira, that is Bunia, Influenzae, Rota and Arena. So it has 3 segment, it has 8 segment, it has 11 segment, and when you add 1 plus 1 it is 2 segment. So 3, 8, you add 3 plus 8, 11, and then you add 1 plus 1, 2. So 3, 8, 11, 2. Now this 3 segment is in Bunia, and for influenza, that is orthomyxo, we already said 8 segments, right? So yes, that's it. I hope it was helpful. And for the next topic, we are already doing the sequence. Like for first we did filovirus, under which we studied Ebo and Marburg. Ebola and Marburg. This was just for you remembering easily that Ebola and Marburg is in Filoviridae, because that is asked as well. So we did measles today. The next topic will be mumps. So let me write it beforehand. So next topic for our discussion will be mumps, and I would want you to write down the comment on how are you finding these videos. So that's it for today, and thank you very much.